Welcome to the internet radio broadcast of a new radio talk show, Central Peg Life, on the W.O.R.K.S. platform, heard in 30 countries around the world, from the city of Winnipeg, Canada, where we have the most diverse culture of any city in our country. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're listening from, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Barry Copeland, your weekly host and producer. You can meet anyone here from any country in the world, as that shows how diverse we are in the city of about 800,000 located in central Canada. I also worked 7 years producing and hosting 2 TV talk shows on local community TV network, Video on Cable, VPW 11, and I also work as an extra in the film industry. My objective of the show is to basically share life experiences from a wide variety of Winnipeggers who work and live here in the city. To have guests from the areas of sports, Olympics and Paralympic athletes, medal winners, physically disabled, authors of books, musicians, small business owners, people that overcame life challenges, and others that would like to share their life experiences, inspire others what they've achieved. I have as my first guest today David Lightfoot, author of The Broken Family Portrait, self-published in 2013, McNally Robinson. Now, David, having lived with cerebral palsy since birth, he's an emerging writer. David has learned in his childhood and teen years to accept his limitations in both physical and learning attributes. This prompted to choose a writing career at 13 when he discovered this was his talent. Now, in December 1999 to March 2001, he took a course at Long Ridge Writers Group, a correspondence course out of West Reading, Connecticut. In September 1998 to April 1999, he went to the Stratford Career Institute and took a creative writing course by correspondence from Toronto, Canada. In 1997, of September to June 1998, he went to Red River Community College, a branch out of Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, and he had the highest achievements in business communications in the beginning, intermediate, advanced level. And September 2009 to the present day, he's been involved with the Society of Manitobans with Disabilities in Winnipeg, Manitoba, or SMD for short. Now, in May 2009 to 2015, he worked as a volunteer at the Helping Hands Resource Center for Immigrants as an administrative assistant. He's also participated in various programs, including social clubs, supper clubs, arts groups, and bowling. He's a member of the SMD Advisory Council. Lightfoot is on a mission to make this happen. Now, he's been promoting Broken Family Portrait at the University of Manitoba in Winnipeg to be inducted as a text program in the English Literature, Psychology, Disability, and Human Rights program, just to name a couple of programs there. And he's also been promoted to the Child and Family Services. He's promoted his book to the Child and Family Services, and he's also been promoted the book at the opening of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, which it is donated a copy to the Human Rights Bookstore at the moment, and he wants to get it into the library at some point. The novels has also been shown to many politicians and celebrities, and David is advocating mental health, including to Olympic cyclist Claire Hughes, and he did show and discuss the book to Kim Campbell, the former woman Canadian Prime Minister of Canada, many years ago. Now, David has a writer with a disability, and he aspires to make the world a better place. Welcome to the program, David.
Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure you can hear me through my microphone.
Yes. Now, I just want to ask you one question, David. How did you decide to become a writer of all the careers out there? Why did you choose a writer career?
I started out writing little stories as a child, and I only did this for fun. Originally, I wanted to be a teacher because, given that I had cerebral palsy, I thought it would be fun and easy for me. It wasn't until about 5th grade that I abandoned it. that I abandoned it after realizing how much responsibility it would be. I spent the next 2 years unsure of what I wanted to be when I grew up, but then in the eighth grade, I did a creative writing as part of my language arts course. I would write stories of 3 to 4 pages as assigned. It was usually assigned by number of pages, and it was mostly fan fiction based on my favorite comic strips and TV shows. I would get marks of 18, 19, and 20 out of 20. This gave me the confidence that yes, this is what I wanted to do for a living.
And why did you choose the genre that you mentioned many times to me before of writing fiction versus nonfiction?
I've always been quite imaginative as a child, always creating fantasy worlds for myself. It was through the aforementioned creative writing part in the language arts program that I discovered that I had the talent for telling stories. And really, when you look at it, there is a larger market and more genres for fiction than nonfiction. In fiction, you have children's stuff, literary, romance, mystery, suspense, horror, the list is endless. Also, based on my experience, it is so much easier to write fiction as far as doing research is concerned. In fiction, you only have to do enough studying on your theme to make scenes realistic and everything factual and authentic, so your readers will not look at it and say, that doesn't work like that, that doesn't happen in real life. With nonfiction, you have to read and study lots of books and website pages based on what you're writing about, look at research studies, conduct interviews, the whole shebang. I simply do not have the energy for all that. Plus, I don't really have enough life experience to write a nonfiction book all by myself. I'm actually writing 3 nonfiction books with my former supervisor of the Helping Hands Resource Center for Immigrants. And although they are based on the life of the author, Rachel Allow, I have to be guided by Rachel herself. Most of the good 90% of the time, I can't think of things to write all by myself, like independently. So what Rachel would do is give me a topic based on the chapter of the book, and allow me to be creative.
And I noticed that in your first book, Broken Family Portrait, you write a lot about disability and abuses. Why did you choose this topic? And can you tell us more about the bit synopsis of the book?
Okay, so first the synopsis. It's all about a cerebral palsy young man named Robin Callback who uses his past and present experiences to become a very successful radio personality. These experiences include, yes, being abused as a child by his father, who is in the military, and following his parents' separation, his 2 eldest sisters, Abilene and Olivia, are completely out of control, to the point where they had to go back to live with their father if that's what they wanted. And I won't even get into all the bullying that he is subjected to in school by both teachers and students in his new environment, Sedgwick, Manitoba. And he overcomes all these adversaries to become a successful radio personality, as I've said. But in his career years, he sees a deja vu of what he himself experienced as a child within his own disabled nephews, who are abused by 3 out of 4 parents. And and apart from drawing from my own life experiences, the first time I did this was actually in a fan fiction story for one of my favorite animated serials that I watched as a teenager in the 90s and had just gotten back into through the power of the internet. The story was actually called Valerie, and it dealt with the title character being pursued for love by both a group of good guys and bad guys. However, the heroine had a child who was left mentally retarded through shaken baby syndrome, the symptoms including a slow speech and an inability to learn like normal. And yet, She was pressured by both relatives and peers to give him good physical punishment against specialist advice. When I researched the effects of shaken baby syndrome, I noticed that the websites on this topic rarely mention discipline. Out of that writing, I learned that it was common sense that mentally retarded children, and I use this as a medical term and with the utmost care, they cannot learn as well as their healthy, normal, typical peers, and they are subjected to a lot of criticism, ostracization, bullying, stuff like that. And yet, I turn around, I look at real life society around me, I see parents talking about spanking their own disabled children as part of that debate that makes me crazy now, and other parents just agreeing with this and just clapping about this like a group of trained seals.
I also noticed that your book is quite a
Mhm.
lot of pages, about 550 pages. How did you come to write such a lengthy novel?
Mm. Mm. Uh, I didn't plan for this to for I didn't plan for it to be that long, but I kept writing and then writing and writing and writing and writing, and it just turned out to be that way. But getting back to this whole disabled thing, all these parents talk about spanking children with disabilities, and they cite that these disabled persons have been able to live in society, get great jobs, even go on to get married and have kids as a result. However, these kinds of success stories are the exception, not the norm. And what about those kids who aren't going to be so lucky? I mean, these people have to have attendants and respite workers to go about their daily business, like eating and dressing and even using the bathroom. It's so ignorant to paint these types of kids with the same brush like that. And nobody talks about children with disabilities when bringing up spanking kids in the first place. That's when I decided I had to write this as a real book. I didn't care about the length, and right from the point of view of a disabled child who grows up with a limited education, has a career that doesn't make him a man in the eyes of society, and adapts to society in ways different from most, to show them that yes, there are disabled children who need lots of support to adjust to society. I've seen this all the time with other adult consumers at SMD, even though I don't have a respite worker. And yes, they do have attendants with them for programs and events. And even with the summer breakout program, SMD typically hires event staff and care staff for these attendants. Usually they're in wheelchairs. We as a society need to give these people support, dignity, fairness, and respect instead of pressuring them to conform when they may not be able to. I am more than confident that these adult consumers will agree with me.
I noticed that you also wrote a sequel to this book called Speak for the Voiceless. How is this book different from your first book, and is it just as long?
Yes, Speak for the Voiceless is, it's not really as long as Broken Family Portrait, but it does continue off in the first story. Broken Family Portrait is told over the span of 30 years. It's a Bill Dung's Roman, whereas Speak for the Voiceless, the continuation, it actually takes place over the time of one decade. The reason why Speak for the Voiceless hasn't been published yet is because I only sold like close to 20 copies of Broken Family Portrait with the espresso book machine at McNally Robinson, and I spent a lot of money, including close to $800 to publish copies for selling at my launch event in January 2014. Self-publishing is like gambling in Vegas when you think about it. I just couldn't take that gamble with Speak for the Voiceless, having to spend so much money and then not make enough and then not make enough and then not make enough back to live on my own. So I decided that yes, this had to go to a traditional publisher. But I knew that if this was published and people read it without knowing what happened in Broken Family Portrait beforehand, then they may not understand what is happening in Speak for the Voiceless. They won't be invested in the characters, they won't be invested in Robin and his family, and the novel will be met with negative reviews and do poorly sales-wise. Would you go, if you were going to the movies to see a sequel, would you, when you go to the movies and there's a sequel coming out, you wouldn't go and see that movie without watching the original first, would you? That's why it's important that Broken Family Portrait be published with the same publisher as another edition, as well as the sequel.
So do you intend to market the book as a bundled set or just sell them individual books and let people know
I
about
hope
both books?
it all depends on what the publishers want. I would like to promote the book separately, but if they think it's a better idea to publish this as a dual set, then yes, I will do it.
And I know that you've written other books too, some of them children's books. How are they different from the first two books that you've written?
Well, they actually deal with different themes. Along with a lot of unpublished novels, I have short stories and children's books that I not only do I want to see them published, but I also taught in high schools and even in university English in the English curriculum. Novels that students would enjoy reading and yet would be appropriate for classroom study, discussion, and projects. I started out wanting to write books for young children, but all it took for me was for me to read To Kill a Mockingbird, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and especially The Stone Angel in high school for my English classes. The Stone Angel was the most boring book that I've ever read in my life, and I wouldn't wish this on the most disinterested student. So I decided that students needed better and more engaging books to read, and not stuff that is basically shoved down their throats by the powers that be, like the Stone Angel and even classical novels like Jane Eyre. Oh, don't even get me into that book. All of my children's books are strictly leisure. So yes, I write for both educational and leisure purposes.
So how come you what would you say that what's the reason you haven't sold more books?
Oh, all because of the. Yeah, that's because I haven't been able to promote it as well as I hoped. And apparent. And one thing I mentioned, one thing I noticed that you haven't asked me that you put on the list of questions is why did I self-publish?
I was going to get to that point.
Oh, well.
One other thing I want to ask you too is you also are working with a philanthropy person in ex-NFL football player named Boomer Esiason. How did you
Yes,
connect
I
up
am
with this
very
fellow?
excited about this very aspect of my career most of all.
Why did you decide to connect up with this person here?
Well, first of all, you read and you I see in your question that I am working with an ex-NFL football player. However, I still have yet to meet Boomer Esiason. Let's get that out of the way first. The thing Okay, well, first of all, let me talk about my project. It's called The Glory of Love, and it's actually a 5-book serial that is part of the action, adventure, romance sagas that are very trendy in young adult literature right now. This saga puts the cartoon and comic book heroes into the spotlight because, we've already had vampires with Twilight, archery pros battling for survival in the Hunger Games, shadow hunters in the Mortal Instruments, and so also coupling this with the entertainment trend of superhero movies and TV shows, and with comic books being so popular, I figured it is time to get started on this project. Now, the thing with the Boomer Esiason Foundation is that this is one of those nonprofits that will do anything to raise money for research and awareness. They have gone the extra mile. They have done a lot of things from writing a children's book to selling. They've even sold barbecue sauce, Barry. And I have been a longtime admirer of Boomer Esiason for many, many years. I admire what he has done off the field and in the media with his sports commentary. And I especially admired the close and warm relationship he's had with his cystic fibrosis-ridden son. His name's Gunnar. Although, no, I have not. I still have yet to meet the Esiason family. One thing I know about his media and writing career is that Boomer has written a children's book based upon a year in his childhood as a philanthropic project. It's called A Boy Named Boomer, and it's available on Amazon mostly. I've seen it on Amazon, and all the reviews that praise this as a really good book. That
I,
inspired me as a writer to choose this very foundation to donate my talents to. When I told the Boomer Esiason Foundation about this idea, yes, they were interested, but long story short, they were chiefly interested in novels that had a cystic fibrosis or sports theme. I didn't have very many ideas to make either theme the central focus of my novel, so I decided to donate my saga project and put cystic fibrosis and sports connections in them. I put a cystic fibrosis and fundraising connection in my first book, The Glory of Love, and a pro football connection in my second book, Lovers in a Dangerous Time, which is in the final stages of completion. I have 31 chapters, and I'm already working on an epilogue. I'll finish the chapter 31 as soon as I'm done this. My third book will have another cystic fibrosis connection featuring a love interest of one of the superhuman Marshall brothers. That's what this group is called. And this love interest comes to Crystal Isle, which this saga is set, to make her dreams of stardom and using her celebrity to make for good causes. The working title is Every Breath You Take.
we
Now,
just
you're
want to
probably
ask in
asking
closing,
how
David.
this thing with the Boomer Esiason Foundation would work. I'm sure that's what's on everybody's minds right now. Well,
We're
the
just down to a
thing
couple of minutes, David. I just want to ask you in closing, what would you like to say out there to all the people with a disability that might be holding them back in pursuing their career goal in life? What would you like to say in final closing comment?
Okay, so I am inclined to say, just go for it, but you do have to take into account that you have physical and mental disabilities, and they can and will affect your ability to do a job properly in any field, and at the pace that your future bosses will expect of you. That's why you have to pick a career that is based on what your talents and skills are, and what your passions and dreams are. It's nice that you want to be a doctor or a lawyer fighting for disability rights, but can you handle the type of schooling that you need and educational commitment and the fact that it's so advanced? When this reality hits for many of these people and they find out that they can't, they find themselves bouncing from job to job, especially the disabled males like myself, trying to prove that they can be the men that society expects them to be. And this actually results in burnout, and this type of disappointment can result in depression, and they wonder if they made the right choices in life.
And
Medical
David,
science has proven that too much stress and anger and frustration is linked to high blood pressure and stroke, which
we're just
leads to
down to a final minute now, David. I just want to ask you, you want to share your contact information in case people want to talk to you about your book or message you by email?
Okay, they can reach me at Dave Writer, that's DAVEWRITER 2003 at yahoo.com.
So thanks for listening to my radio show today. And you can reach me, the host of the show, at Central Peg Life Show at radioworks.world for any feedback, comments, or questions. We are on Facebook, Central Peg Life, and have a blog at wordpress98510.wordpress.com. Tune in next week on the 14th. We're going to have Wanda Bond on my show talking about nutritional health products and how to improve your life. Thanks for listening to the Central Peg Life Radio broadcast show. Have a great day.